3 years of marriage. I was finally pregnant. I looked up to share the good news with Evan. Instead, I saw that he was typing with his head down, with a small smile at the corner of his mouth. Hubby, hubby, hubby. I called out to him 3 times. It took him a while to respond. Later, I often asked him, "Why do you keep contacting your ex-girlfriend?" He always said to me with a straight face, "I have nothing to do with her, and we are married. She also has a boyfriend, but he knows full well that this will break my heart." In the end, I said to the doctor, "Please help me abort this baby," and then asked, "Doctor, can I get rid of this baby?" Today is the day for the regular pregnancy test. Ever since I found out I was pregnant, every time I go to the hospital, Evan would accompany me, no matter how busy he is. I was thinking of how to avoid him asking the doctor this question alone. His cell phone suddenly rang. Looking out of the window, he frowned, talking to the other person for a long time. Seemed to have run into trouble. Evan didn't mention anything when he came back. He was just a little distracted. I asked him what was wrong. He hesitated. He said, "There's a big client at the company. He asked me to come over, but I interrupted him." "Go on. I'll be busy for a while. Work is important." He took a good look at my expression. He realized that I was smiling. Then he was relieved. He touched my head, kissed me, said, "My wife has worked hard. Wait for me at the hospital after your checkup. I'll be back to pick you up soon." Waiting for Evan to walk away, I put away my smile. Asked the doctor that question. The doctor was surprised. "You want to abort this baby?" I nodded. The doctor told me, "This baby is healthy, as I was not easy to get pregnant in the first place. Now is just the right age to get pregnant, and I have such a wonderful husband." The doctor suggested that I think about it more carefully. I thought about it, said, "Okay." After the checkup, I waited in the hospital lobby for a long time. I didn't see Evan by the time I had lunch. I had to call him and ask him. The phone cut off just as it rang. Then Evan sent me a message. "Honey, I'm sorry. I was too busy at work. Forgot about you. I'm still busy. Take a taxi home yourself. What do you want to eat tonight? I'll go home early and make it for you." His words are full of love and guilt. If I hadn't read his ex-girlfriend's friend circle, I might have believed he was really busy. I opened Sophia's friend circle. The text is such a good man. Why did I give up in the first place? In the picture, Evan is helping her put up a bookcase, sweating profusely, sleeves rolled up, showing off his strong arms. Sophia is next to him, wiping his sweat. Posted half an hour after he left the hospital. And there's a message from Evan's staff underneath. "Wow, that's sweet. The boss is still so considerate of Sophia. Ouch. What a pity. Such a good match." Sophia returned a shy expression. In fact, they may not be aware of it. When Evan first introduced me to Sophia, she added me as a friend. I quietly clicked like. Less than a minute later, my cell phone rang. It was Evan calling. He was busy and didn't answer. He said, "Honey, don't get me wrong. I was on my way to the office when I got Sophia's call. Her boyfriend is away on a business trip. She couldn't move the cabinets by herself. That's why I went to help," I said with a smile. I didn't misunderstand. I was agreeing with her complimenting you. He was relieved to hear it. I smiled on this end. Evening. Evan came home early. As soon as he got home, he started working on dinner. Dinner was ready. The table was filled with a variety of dishes. Evan explained the nutritional benefits of each dish. While looking at me with expectant eyes. I tasted a little bit of each dish. I praised him for his skill. Only then did he reveal a satisfied smile. He said, "I'm glad you like it. Thanks to Sophia. Today I helped her to put up her bookcase. She gave me a lot of pregnancy recipes." Suddenly, I don't feel like eating much of anything. That's when Evan's cell phone screen lit up. When we used to eat, he never returned messages, unless it was a particularly urgent call. This time, he looked at the cell phone screen, actually picked up the phone. After reading it, he handed the cell phone to me. "You see how much Sophia cares about you. Sent me a bunch of pregnancy notes again. Let me take good care of you." I didn't answer the phone, said unhappily, "I'm full," and walked into the room. This time, Evan didn't follow right in. I met him when I was in grad school. He was already a somewhat famous entrepreneur. The university invited him to give a lecture. He didn't think we'd see each other again, but he stopped me at the end of the lecture when I was about to leave. After that, he started to pursue me like crazy. I've always been an obedient girl, insecure, puzzled by his moves. First reaction was to refuse. He never gave up. Even if he was busy at work, he would take time out of his day to come to school and have dinner with me. Every time he traveled, he would bring me local gifts. I was busy in the lab until late. He would wait outside, staying up late with me, then send me back to the dormitory. That's how it was. After a year of his persistent pursuit, we finally got together. That day, he was so happy. He couldn't wait for the whole world to know about his happiness. After graduation, we naturally got married. After marriage, I worked at a scientific research institute. Later, I was found out that it's not easy to get pregnant. So I resigned, concentrated on preparing for pregnancy at home. But 3 years have passed. My stomach still didn't respond. Evan's mom was always picking on me, but he helped me every time. Never thought of giving up on me. I even found out that he secretly went to the orphanage to inquire about adoption. Just last month, I suddenly started vomiting. Evan immediately and nervously took me to the hospital. After the checkup, the doctor said I was pregnant. I looked at Evan excitedly, but he didn't have any reaction. He was looking down at his cell phone and chatting. The corners of his mouth were smiling. Obviously, he saw the news that made him happy. "Hubby, hubby, hubby." I called him 3 times. It took him a moment to respond. "We're having a baby." He froze at first. Then he was so excited that he wanted to hug me, but he was worried about touching the baby. So he put down his cell phone, rushed out of the office, ran all the way to the hospital. I picked up my cell phone, found that the password was still my birthday. After unlocking it, the screen stopped on WeChat's chat interface. Sophia sent a message. "I was shopping. I saw a puppy. It especially looks like the one we used to keep together." Evan asked, "Did you buy it?" Sophia said, I can't afford it." Evan replies, "I'll pay for it, and I'll pay for all the dog food." Then, the other party received a large amount of money transfer. Immediately sent a cute "thank you boss" emoticon. I continued to look up the chat records, found that they are all daily sharing and funny paragraphs. The content is nothing out of the ordinary, but the frequency is high. It made me feel a little bad inside. I've never had a good feeling about Sophia. She's Evan's ex-girlfriend, and his first love. Back in the day, they started the company together, but as the company grew, there were more and more conflicts between them. Sophia has a strong personality. Finally, after a heated argument, she left the country in a huff. When Sophia left, took nothing with her. Later she came back home. Evan wanted to make it up to her. He was especially lenient with her. That night, after learning that I was pregnant, Evan took good care of me. He also posted a message in his circle of friends, announcing that he was about to become a father. The comment section was full of congratulations, but he only replied to Sophia, "When will you give birth to one too? Let me be a godfather. I'll be a godfather." Me and who? With you. Go on. You and your boyfriend. In the dark, I can tell by his teeth. He should be smiling right now. When I woke up that day, I went to look through his friend circle again. I found that both his and Sophia's comments were gone. The next morning, I just woke up and heard a lot of noise outside. Walked into the kitchen, saw Evan was making breakfast. Sophia was helping out. It was filled with laughter. As soon as I got up, Evan rushed to say, "Honey, you're awake. Sophia wanted to see you. She also brought you a lot of pregnancy stuff. Go wash up first. Breakfast will be ready soon." I thanked Sophia politely. She smiled at me. The smile was a bit inscrutable. While eating breakfast, Evan was especially attentive to me. He thought of everything for me. He was helping me peel the shrimp. Sophia suddenly spoke up. "I envy my sister-in-law. You have someone to help you peel the shrimp. Unlike me, I can only do it myself." Evan heard this, He turned the shrimp he was going to give me, shoved it directly into Sophia's mouth. Eat it. Eating can't stop your mouth. Sophia can't stop laughing, giggling and giggling. I had no taste for this meal. I went to rest after the meal. Evan was doing the dishes. When I went to the kitchen to drink water, I saw Sophia hug Evan from behind. Evan said softly, "It's okay. Stop it. Let go." Sophia said, "I can't. I'm going to hold you a little longer." Evan smiles and turns around, just about to pull away from Sophia. He found me standing in the kitchen doorway. He hurriedly pushed Sophia away, quickly walked to me, a little nervous. "I'm a little bit nervous. Why did you come out? If you need anything, just call me directly." I asked directly, "What are you doing?" He quickly explained, "She was just helping me tie my apron." I pretended not to hear them. I casually answered, "Oh." Sophia came over, smiling. "Emily, I envy you. Your husband is handsome and rich. The most important thing is that he loves you so much." I asked her with a smile, "Is your boyfriend not good to you? Doesn't he love you?" Sophia was about to speak. Evan interjected, "I'll take you home. I'll take you home." He turned to me, "Wife, she's having computer problems. I'll take her home. I'll fix it for her. You be good at home and wait for me to come back." Sophia looked at me with a provocative look. I didn't say a word. As soon as the door closed, I realized they were all gone. I'd like to ask Evan, does he remember that he promised to look at my laptop for me last week? The laptop was silent, but he always said he didn't have time to deal with it. Evan said he'd be right back, but I haven't seen him since dinner time. I finished my takeout, lying on the sofa, playing with my cell phone. I fell asleep without realizing it. In the middle of the night, I was woken up by the sound of the door opening. Evan was startled, obviously not expecting me to be awake. "Honey, why are you lying here? Go back to your room and get some rest." "I'm sorry." I went straight to the office after seeing Sophia off. "I was so busy I forgot to tell you I'd be late. That's all." He picked me up and walked to my room. As he approached me, I smelled a smell on him that didn't belong to our house. It was Sophia's usual perfume. He put me on the bed, planning to go wash up. I tugged on his coat. "Why are you always in touch with your ex-girlfriend?" He froze, had a bit of a heart attack, but still reasoned back to me. "I have nothing to do with her. Besides, we're married. She has a boyfriend too. Why do you smell like her?" Evan stammered his answer. Maybe when I was fixing her computer, accidentally spilled her perfume." I looked at him seriously and said, "Can you cut back on her in the future? I don't like it." Evan was surprised by my seriousness. After hesitating for a while, said, "Good. Since you don't like it, I won't contact her from now on." Since then, I've never seen him in touch with Sophia again. Sometimes Sophia sends me messages. Evan never replied. I think, maybe things have changed for the better. If only I hadn't gone to Evan's company that day. After the pregnancy, I stayed home all the time. Evan was worried that I was bored at home alone. He picked a nice day, said he'd take me around the company. Along the way, he kept caring about me. He was afraid that I was not feeling well. When I got off the bus, I found an earring under the door handle. It's exactly the same as the one Sophia wore last time she came to our house. I quietly put it back. Arrived at Evan's office. He was working. I wandered around, but he looked up from his computer at me every 5 minutes, asking how I was feeling, if there was anything I needed. Simply a model husband. 2 hours later, he had to go to a meeting. Before he left, he asked me to watch some video and wait for him. He said he'd take me out for a nice meal after the meeting. I obediently agreed. Opened his computer. Just watched the video for a while. An email alert popped up in the lower right corner of the computer. I was going to just turn it off, but as soon as the mouse was put on it, found that the sender was Sophia. Somehow, I clicked on the email. "I forgot your tie at my place. Remember to pick it up when you have time." I looked up the records. I found that since Evan promised me not to contact Sophia anymore, they started to communicate with each other by email. At first, the The contents of the emails were quite normal, but the further I looked, it's hard to accept. It turns out Evan said he was on a business trip. He came back the next day, actually took Sophia out to play, and Sophia doesn't have a boyfriend at all. After reading all the chat records, I marked the last email as unread, endured the pain in my heart, walked out of Evan's office in a daze. I need to calm down. While waiting for the elevator, I heard someone chatting in the pantry, probably Evan's employees. They said, "I heard the boss's wife came to the office today. How was it? Is she pretty?" Pretty, but I don't think she's as good as Sophia, the boss's ex. Ugh, it's a shame about them. If Sophia had come back earlier, I'm sure the boss would have made up with her. What do you say? Haven't you heard? I forgot to bring my documents when I left work that day. I went back to the office in the evening to get them. I bumped into Sophia coming out of the boss's office in disheveled clothes. Obviously they still have old feelings for each other. I don't know how I got home. Ever since then, whenever I saw Evan, I felt sick to my stomach. Finally, I told the doctor, please help me to have an abortion, while Evan was away on business. I made an appointment for the surgery. In fact, I know exactly what he means by business trip, is to accompany Sophia to hang out. But when I saw with my own eyes the contents of Sophia's friend circle, my heart still stung. They went to an amusement park, carousel, bumper cars, Ferris wheel, those childish programs. Evan accompanied Sophia to play all over. When you're in love, I wanted to go to the amusement park. Evan immediately refused. He said, "It's so childish. I won't do it. If the employees see me, I'll lose face." Now, he doesn't have to care about face anymore. I'm not happy about it. Before going into the operating room, I made one last call to Evan. The call came through quickly. "Hello, honey, what's up? Missed me, Evan. Evan, where are you now?" He looks a little nervous. He paused. He's still talking. "Honey, I'm with a client." From the cell phone, I hear hilarious laughter coming from the other end. It's a stark contrast to the quiet on my end. It's as if we're in two different worlds. "Okay, you go ahead." I hung up the phone. I immediately went into the operating room. I said to the doctor, "Let's start the operation." At that moment, I vaguely seemed to hear Evan calling me. When I woke up, Evan was sitting on the edge of the bed. I touched my stomach, realizing it was empty. He asked me with red eyes, "Why?" I pulled out the printout of his chat with Sophia from my bedside bag, threw it right in his face. His hands shook, picks it up from the floor, looks at me in disbelief. "Just for this, there's nothing special between Sophia and me. At best, we just talk once in a while. It's nothing. Why didn't you tell me? I just didn't want to upset you." "Oh, I see. So you knew I'd be sad. Then why did you do it anyway?" "You knew." Evan froze for a moment. Confusion flashed across his face. "We don't have anything to talk about. You go away." I told Evan I wanted a divorce, but he was dead set against it. So I moved out of the house. I rented my own place, and got a job. Evan started chasing me again, giving me gifts, making lunches, picking me up and dropping me off every day. He even offered to take me to an amusement park, but none of that swayed me to divorce. On this day, Evan waited for me downstairs as usual. I got in the car, said to him the first thing I've said in days. "Let's talk." He suddenly looked up at me, eyes slowly becoming happy. We went to the restaurant he took me to when he first chased me. That was when I was studying, after I had almost eaten. Asked him, "When we first found out we were having a baby, what was in your mind?" He was a bit confused. I continued to ask, "Did you want our child to grow up healthy, or did you want Sophia to raise that dog white and fat?" When I was taken to the hospital, he was still talking to Sophia. Knowing we were having a baby, he was still talking to Sophia about a dog. I looked up. "Seriously, Evan, you leave me alone." Evan was very drunk that day. I couldn't reach his driver. I had to take him home myself. When I got to his door, I was about to enter the password. The door opened from inside. It was Sophia. She saw me. When she saw me, she froze for a moment. Then she explained, "I haven't been able to contact Evan. I'm a little worried. so I came over to take a look. Emily, don't misunderstand. I didn't say anything. I left Evan with her and left. Actually, I wanted to ask her, how did she get the password to the house and why did she care about Evan? Why she cared about Evan? But when the words came out of my mouth, I don't think I need to ask. Today's incident. I'm determined to divorce Evan. I don't know what happened that day, but Evan agreed to divorce the next day. 3 years later, Evan and I stood in front of the Civil Affairs Bureau again. He said, "Honey, I'm sorry for making you sad, but I won't give up on you. I hope you can give me a chance to start over." Evan looked at me with pain and guilt in his eyes. I smiled bitterly, averted his gaze. "Go away." The divorce paperwork was done quickly. After that, I went to New York on business. I didn't expect to run into Liam here. He's my neighbor. He used to follow me around when I was a kid. He moved away, but we kept in touch when we were studying. But since Evan and I got together, the kid just ignored me for some reason. He didn't even come to my wedding. Now that he's grown up, a cold look. I almost didn't recognize him when I first saw him. Liam called me first. "Emily, call me sister." When he spoke, his voice was still so familiar. All the emotions I'd been suppressing since the divorce came out. That night, Liam and I drank a lot. I complained a lot to him, talked about how unsatisfactory my marriage was. In the end, I don't even remember how I got back to the hotel. When I woke up the next day, my whole body hurt. There was a warm body on my chest, and a strong arm on my waist. As soon as I opened my eyes, I saw Liam's handsome face. I froze in shock at him, quietly moved away from his hand, wanted to sneak away, but was pulled back into his arms. He asked, "Where do you want to go?" I want to sneak away after eating." I couldn't help but laugh and cry. My head was exploding, but I remember clearly. Yesterday I was the one who pulled him. I wouldn't let him go, until Liam became my boyfriend. I still can't believe it. It turns out that Liam has loved me since the beginning of his love affair. When we were kids, we played house. I always played his bride. When he grew up, he swore in his heart to be my groom. He planned to confess his love to me after graduation, but he didn't expect Evan to come out halfway. Seeing Evan and I so in love, he decided to let go. He stopped contacting me. After all these years, he never fell in love with another girl. Just when he thought he was going to be alone for the rest of his life, God gave him another chance. After being with Liam, it just so happened that the company was opening a branch in New York. I applied for a transfer to New York. On the day of the move, I ran into Evan downstairs. He looked like he was having a rough time. He was bearded. He was dressed casually. He didn't have the same energy as before. He didn't see Sophia behind him. After our divorce, Sophia's been with him ever since we got divorced. "Emily, where are you going? You don't want me anymore?" I smiled at him. "What? You're not happy with Sophia every day. What's the matter?" Thinking of me, Evan was depressed a moment ago. In the blink of an eye, his expression turned vicious. He said through clenched teeth, "Sophia's a liar. She lied to me." Sophia left Evan at first. It was because she thought he didn't have any money. At that time, they just started their business. Evan's family couldn't help. They were looking for investment to make ends meet, looking at other people's faces to make ends meet. Then Sophia happened to meet a rich kid. He said he appreciated her ability. He wanted to ask her to go abroad with him, to help him manage his company abroad. He also pursued her fiercely. Sophia left Evan decisively, found an excuse for her disagreement. She took nothing when she left. She didn't want Evan's money. She also left herself a way out. Later, the rich kid lost interest in Sophia. He broke up with her. Sophia tried to get back, but it didn't work. She had to go back to China. After returning, she found that Evan was already married. She was going to give up. There's no one better than Evan around her. Seeing Evan treating me so well, she was unbalanced. She thought they should be hers. So she decided to approach Evan. At first, Evan just felt guilty about her. No defense. She approached Evan as a friend, into his life. Then she started to seduce Evan. Evan refused every time, but he didn't blame her too much. Later on, Evan slowly fell in love with the feeling of chatting and flirting, but he always kept it verbal. Every time when it came to the critical moment, he would stop. She still didn't die. Started to post some ambiguous content in the circle of friends. After I liked it for the first time, Evan reminded her. After that, she blocked Evan from all her friend circles. Even that time she sent an email to Evan. She also deliberately picked the time when I went to the office. And Evan felt guilty about me at the same time. And Evan, while feeling guilty about me, was enjoying his ex-girlfriend's seduction. He thought that as long as he didn't cross the final line, as long as he doesn't cross that final line, he didn't think it would blow up in his face. He didn't realize it would come out. After our last heart-to-heart, Evan came home mistaking Sophia for me, and something happened. Sophia secretly recorded the video, threatened Evan to divorce me, or else she'd publicize his marital infidelity. After we divorced, he got together with Sophia. At first, he thought he got along with Sophia pretty well. Later, Evan stumbled upon the fact that Sophia was still in contact with her rich ex-boyfriend, even cheated on him while he was on a business trip. He came home early, crashed into the unpleasant scene at home. He was so angry that he almost injured Sophia. Sophia's ex-boyfriend was so scared that he immediately fled back abroad. After listening to this, I first felt quite relieved, but on second thought, these things seemed to have nothing to do with me. So I asked, "So what? What do you want to tell me now, Emily? I know it's wrong. Sophia and I are done. I blackballed her, and I took back everything I gave her. You come back. Everything I have is yours. We'll start over, okay?" Evan always learns to appreciate things only after they're lost. When he was with me, he was having an affair with Sophia, and when he got Sophia, he started to miss me again. He always puts on a show of affection after he's lost, using fake pain to prove how much he loves. It's all so disgusting and ironic to me. Evan, am I that worthless to you? What makes you think I'd accept an unclean man? Evan listened. His face turned pale. I pushed him away. I was going to go into my room to pack my things, but he tugged at me and wouldn't let me go. At that moment, a pair of strong hands pushed him away. It was Liam. Evan was like a dog protecting its food. In front of me, shouting at Liam, "Who are you?" Her boyfriend. Evan heard those 4 words. Simple but weighty. He couldn't believe his ears. He stared at Liam, then suddenly burst out laughing. "Emily, where did you find this actor? You're just trying to piss me off, aren't you? You love me so much. How could you possibly be with anyone else?" I walked from behind Evan to Liam. I took his arm. I said to Evan, "What else do you want me to say? From the moment we got divorced, it was over between us. I don't want to say any more harsh words. You should just go." Evan finished listening. Suddenly, he fell to his knees in front of me like a madman. "Emily, just once, one last time. Give me one more chance," he yelled and dragged me away. Liam dragged him outside the neighborhood. She even told the security guard, "Evan won't be allowed to come in again." After that, I left Chicago. I moved to New York. I thought I'd never meet Evan and Sophia again, and so, I bought a house in New York, settled down, started a happy life with Liam. Liam always kept hinting at me. He wanted a formal title. He looks noble and cold in front of outsiders, but in front of me, he's always so sweet and adorable. One can't help but want to give him the whole world. After the failure of my first marriage, I was afraid of making the same mistake again. Every time he mentioned marriage, I always said to wait a little longer. Liam didn't push me either. One day, he went out of town on a business trip. I left work and had dinner with my coworkers. I went home alone, but I saw a familiar figure downstairs. It was Sophia. She looked in bad shape. She's got a big belly. Her whole body was in a mess. Her eyes were bloodshot. As soon as she saw me, she grabbed me tightly, kneeling at my feet. I was shocked. Both of them are the same. "Emily, I'm sorry for what I did before. I'm begging you, go talk to Evan. He'll listen to you. The baby I'm carrying is his. He can't leave me and the baby behind." I picked her up, said helplessly, "This is between you two. You go and find him yourself. Besides, I have nothing to do with him for a long time." said. I turned around and went upstairs. Suddenly, a piercing shout rang in my ears. You guys won't let me have a good time. Then everyone will not get along. Before I could react, I was pushed away by a force. I turned my head angrily to find Evan appeared out of nowhere. Sophia quietly fished out a knife from her pocket, wanted to stab me, but Evan, who suddenly appeared, kicked her away. Sophia fell to the ground. Her mouth cried out in pain. Blood gradually flowed out from under her leg. Evan, however, froze, staring at her stupidly, not daring to step forward. I was the first to come to my senses, called 911 immediately. Looking at the blood on the floor, I already knew the outcome of Sophia, although I hated her. But as a mother who has also lost a child, I felt bad about it. Liam heard about Sophia, immediately rushed back to New York from out of town. Although I didn't say anything, Liam sensed my anxiety. She told me, "This has nothing to do with you. Don't feel guilty. Even if it hadn't happened, the baby wouldn't have been born. Evan would never have accepted her." I don't feel guilty at all. Then why are you so distracted these days? I'm just sympathizing with her. Well, our beautiful and kind sister Emily. Don't be sad. Let me take you out for a walk. After coming back from traveling with Liam, I was in a much better mood. I didn't tell Sophia about what happened that day. I heard later. She woke up and realized the baby was gone. She lost her mind. She ran to Evan's office every day. She said she wanted to bring the baby to its father. It's all over Evan's company. Even his client's appraisal of him has been affected. I don't want to care about these things anymore. Because while traveling, I said yes to Liam's proposal. There was no grand spectacle, and not a lot of friends and family. Just an ordinary morning. We were on the deck with the first rays of the morning sun. Liam got down on one knee. He asked, "Emily, will you marry me?" Suddenly, as if by magic, he pulls a diamond ring and flowers out of his back. Surrounded by friends he didn't know very well, everyone shouted, "Marry him, marry him, marry him." I blushed all of a sudden. I thought, since the scenery is so nice, might as well be brave one more time. I nodded my head. Liam immediately helped me put the diamond ring on my ring finger. It was just the right size. Then he picked me up. He spun me around on the deck several times. After stopping, he hugged me tightly, kissing me all the time. I snuggled into his arms, listening to his strong heartbeat. I've never felt so relieved. In the evening, Liam and I sat on the deck, blowing in the sea breeze, watching the sunset. I couldn't help but sigh. The god of luck finally favored me. Let me reopen the door to happiness. After returning to New York, we started to prepare for the wedding. Liam, this guy, he had already chosen the date. As soon as he came back, he rushed to visit my parents. He quickly set a date for the wedding. He stared at me. "Seriously, are you worried that I'll run away?" That's right. I was too slow last time. We missed so many years of happiness. This time, I can't be slow again. The wedding went off without a hitch. Everything was completed successfully. Just after the wedding, I met Evan, who I haven't seen for a long time. He was dressed formally, but he looked a little haggard. "Emily, I wish you all the best. Can we talk again?" "Don't worry. I won't bother you anymore." I looked up at Liam. He squeezed my hand gently. He gave me a firm look. I thought, why don't we just get it all out of the way? This is the last time. I nodded my head. "Do you remember the first time we met?" Evan said that the day of the speech wasn't the first time he'd seen me. The first time he saw me, it was by the bookstore in front of our school. That day, he was depressed because Sophia left. He was walking aimlessly on the road alone. He saw me feeding stray cats. At first he noticed me. It was because my side face looked a bit like Sophia's. Later on, he always walks to that street uncontrollably. He wanted to see more of me. He knows I like the milk tea from the second store on that street. He knows I don't like cilantro when I eat noodles. He also knows a lot of my little habits. Later, his career slowly took off. People also become busy. He had less time to go to that street. He originally thought that was the end of his story with me, but at that speech, he saw me sitting on the stage. Before he could react, the mouth had already acted first, directly stopped me. He thought, this might be fate. Then, he started to chase me, although I wasn't easy to chase, but he had a good time in those days. Later, I agreed to be with him. He was so excited that he didn't sleep all night, secretly vowed in his heart, he must be especially good to me in the future. Since he's been with me, he hardly thought of Sophia again. But after Sophia returned home, she told Evan about the hardships of working alone abroad. Evan remembered how Sophia had helped him. He began to help her again and again. In the beginning, he didn't have any other thoughts about Sophia. Day by day, life became dull and uneventful. Sophia always brought fresh topics and tricks. He gradually lost control of himself. He thought, as long as we don't go to the final step, just chatting, it's not a betrayal. He believed, as long as I don't find out, I won't leave him. He still can't figure it out, how things came to be like this. After I heard that, I just felt pathetic and ridiculous. Evan, you don't know what love is. You don't love anyone. You love only yourself. I've heard everything you've said. You can go now. I hope we never see each other again. After that, I never saw Evan again. The days went by happily and quickly. One day, I suddenly received a letter. Inside was a bank card. After Evan returned to Chicago, Sophia still went to block him every day, but it didn't work. Sometimes Sophia was sober, and sometimes she was crazy. One time when Evan was off duty, Sophia suddenly drove at him. Although Evan's life was saved, but he was completely paralyzed. Sophia had no guardian, was put in jail. After Evan was paralyzed, there was no one to manage the company. He sold the company outright. His mother objected, but he still gave me 90 of the money, said it was compensation. I only felt emotional when I heard that. Maybe this is retribution. Later, I donated all that money to charity. From then on, there was no more Evan in my life. A new page was turned completely.